This video is brought to you by Quiztones, my all-time favorite app for learning frequencies.
Margo and I just climbed to the top of this mountain. We did over 5,000 feet in elevation gain. Margo had to do some rock climbing, and it was a big adventure. We're currently on the summit, just looking out at all the mountains, and we're the highest mountain in the area, which is kind of cool. So we're above all these big mountains. Now, did I climb a mountain to shoot a YouTube video? The answer is no. The reason I'm shooting this video is because a lot of times when we do these adventures, Margo and I, we go out on adventures all the time. It's one of those things that just kind of fuels my life. And there's so many times on these big adventures, especially when they're really long. Like we've been hiking and climbing for about 4 hours now. And you think a lot and you contemplate your life and you process things, you know? And so I thought it would be cool just to bring my camera. I didn't even use this camera to film any of the hike. I was just like, man, maybe when I get to the top of this mountain, I'll have something to say, right? So yesterday, I had a coaching call with a really awesome person. Really awesome person. I hope he doesn't mind me talking about it. But super cool dude, engineer, really getting into the analog world. And we ended up having a 2-hour conversation, just talking about audio, talking about networking, talking about business building. It was just natural, and it was just a really cool conversation. And we both had really different perspectives, which was really fun. And at the end of this call, he asked me a question that really, I don't know why, but it made me really think and process, kind of the rest of the night and then a lot on this hike. And one of the things he asked me is, he's like, hey, so I have to ask you, you're an audio engineer, you've been an audio engineer for a long time, whatever, and now you're trying to teach people how to become a professional audio engineer and have a business and take their passion and make it something that they can have an income from, right? And he asked me, he's like, I just don't understand why, if you're already doing it, why teach it? If you're already there, why would you change course and teach it? And no one had ever really asked me that before. I never, I've thought about that kind of a lot, but not directly in a conversation like that. And at first, my answer was oh, well, because I've been doing this for a very long time. I've been doing audio for, I think now it's 16 years. I'm bad at math. 15 or 16 years. And I kind of started to tell him, I've been doing this for a very long time. I've been, having my own business for a really long time, and networking and traveling the whole world. And then he kind of stopped, and he was like, yeah, I get that, but, you don't really talk about that. Where's the proof? All this stuff. And it was such a fascinating thing, because at first, I have to be honest, I feel like my ego, in a way, I don't normally have a really strong ego, but at that moment and that night, for some reason, there was this thing that just kept being in my head. I knew it wasn't really a part of me, if that makes any sense. I knew it was just this extra thing. I didn't even agree with it. But it was like, oh, how dare he ask? Like, he should know, what I do. And it's so funny because I realized on this hike and this morning, just walking uphill for 4 hours straight, nonstop, I realized that I haven't really talked about my history and my past and like why I'm choosing to do this. So that's what this video is, basically. So one of the things I'm kind of bad about is talking about myself, like talking about my accolades or talking about my wins or talking about cool things I've done. I'm the type of person that I really like to live as much as possible in the present moment. I'm sure you probably hear that all the time. For me, it's very important. It's very important to live right now, like what is happening right now. And so whenever I'm making all these videos and I'm just kind of showing stuff, I'm worried about like now, right this second. Like I don't care about all the stuff I've done, or I don't care about the past things or whatever. Oh, my microphone. But basically, I'm going to give you just a really quick little recap. I started audio, and all I knew is I just wanted to work in music, So I actually went to college to study. Sorry, that was a bee. I thought that was a fly. Sorry, buddy. Don't sting me. There's a lot of bees and flies up here. So I went to school to study recording, and basically at that time, this was in 2010, I think, is whenever I went. So about 15 years ago. And it's so funny because I actually had no idea what I wanted to do. I was in bands. I was obsessed with music. I was a street performer for 5 years. I played trash cans down at this outdoor mall, trash cans and buckets. It's one of my favorite jobs I've ever done. That was my first job, actually. I was 14 whenever I started that. And it was a legit, like we made really good money, especially for being so young. And I remember I was working at Olive Garden, and there was a lady that was there. She was an older lady, and I was serving her. She was with a friend, and she was just a really sweet person, and kind of throughout the experience that she was having, she kind of pulled me aside and was like, hey, so what's your plan? What's your life plan? And I would have been 17 at the time, out of high school. And I was like, honestly, I don't know. I'm going to go to this community college part-time. I'm working. Like, I don't really know. I've thought about all these different directions I wanted to go, but at the end of the day, I'm just not sure. And she's like, well, what do you love? Like, what do you love to do? I was like, well, I love music. I play trash cans. I'm in this band. Like I love music. I love writing music. I love playing music. I play guitar. I kind of just went on about how much I loved music. And then she looks at me and she says, you should be an audio engineer. And I was like, an audio engineer? And that had never come to mind in my life up to that point. And I was like, really? You think I should be an audio engineer? She's like, yes. She's like, my son went to a college. He became an audio engineer, and he really tried to be in the music industry really hard, and he just didn't quite make it. And he ended up working for Chase credit cards, where they record all the calls and stuff. I don't even know, customer service calls, I guess. And when she said that, I was like, oh, wait, this guy went to school for music, it didn't work out, and he was working for Chase credit cards? That can't be that bad, right? Like, that can't be that bad. Like, at least you'll have a fallback, Because going into the music industry is kind of it's a rare thing for people to actually do and make it, a real career. It's very, very difficult. And so she's like, let me give you, his email, and you can talk to him and whatever. And so I get his email, I reach out to him, and I was like, hey, this might be weird, but your mom, I met her at Olive Garden, and she she said I should be an audio engineer and go to the school you went to. Can you just tell me your experience and, whatever? And he wrote me this awesome email. I wish I had it right now to read some of it to you, but he sent me this awesome email basically saying like, yep, I did it. It was awesome. I tried really hard. And I will never forget, he said that this avenue is really difficult and it's not for the faint of heart, and you're going to go through tons and tons of losses before you get to wins. And he's like, and I tried to be in the music industry and I just didn't make it. I just couldn't quite cut it. And so I went, this other route and kind of, still technically in audio, but just more of a customer service part of the audio, right? So he basically said, like, you have to be a certain kind of person to even go to that school and to graduate, and then also to like do it. And I don't know what it was, to be honest, but something about that called to me whenever, just the way he wrote it, and I was like, I am ready for this, I was like, okay, I have a path, I've seen someone that can do it, and he at least got some of the way. Maybe I can take this information and like do it a little bit better, I'm going to try harder. I'm going to do everything I can to get in there. And so I ended up going to that school, which is kind of crazy. It's crazy how it worked out. Nowadays, I don't recommend going that route just because you don't need to pay all that money for that. Whenever I went, there wasn't like YouTube wasn't huge, like it was big, of course, but it wasn't like it is now. Like you can learn so much from so many different people now. You don't need a college. I'm here to say I've done it. You don't need it. You don't need it anymore. If you want to be an audio engineer, if you want to go into the music business in that way, of course. So anyway, I go to college. It was awesome. It really was. It was a 24-hour school, so it really was for me. I did really well in tight deadlines, and I don't know. They tried to make it like it was the industry, so you have to do crazy hours, and you have to have these insane deadlines. Like, I'll never forget, I almost failed a class because I had this deadline, and it was a film, like audio for film. And we had to have this huge project done in a month, and it was massive. And the night before it was due, I was working on it like crazy the whole month, and then the night before it was due, there was all this stuff we had to do, and I worked a complete all-nighter, which I did all the time in college. You just had to be successful. So I did an all-nighter, and I had to burn it on a DVD, which is hilarious. We don't do that nowadays. But I had to burn it on a DVD off my computer, and that DVD is like what you turn in. Like everything that you did is on this DVD, and that's what you turn in. And I put it in there, and I pushed go, and I realized it was taking longer than normal, and I had to drive to school. And if you're 1 minute late, you fail, right? You fail. Like, that's it. And then that's it. You have to retake that class. So, and I only had like a month of school left. Like it was, So, me and my roommate were both in the same situation. I had this little Honda Civic, and we're driving to school. It was 13 minutes to get to school. And I was holding my MacBook as flat as possible, driving through traffic, trying to make sure that this laptop would stay as flat as possible so I wouldn't mess up the burning process, right? We get there, and I get the pinwheel of death. And I'm looking at it, and I say out loud, I failed. It's over. There was like 1 minute till we had to be in class. My roommate had the same thing. And then out of nowhere, bing, the little bell, I think it was Toast was the application, so it made like a toast sound. bing, and it popped out, and I grabbed it, and I was like, dude, so sorry, I'm going. And I ran into class, turned it in, passed the class. My roommate failed, just crazy. And all it was, I guess I held the computer a little bit more flat over there. His never came out. It just pinwheeled, and it just ruined the whole bounce, and then he had to completely retake the class and stay. So anyway, that experience taught me so much about just giving it everything, you know? Like, you have to give it everything. And it doesn't matter, you know, at that time in my life, I was like, it doesn't matter what time it is, doesn't matter if it's an all-nighter, like, you just got to get it done. And that instilled in me something that made my career start to blossom early on. So I get out of school, and it's a perfect time where digital consoles are really getting popular. Digital gear in the studio is really getting popular. So there's all these kind of analog guys, and then there's the digital newer, kind of younger guys, but there wasn't as many of them. And it was so easy to get gigs at the time whenever I got out of school, just because in the area I was in, like, all the analog guys were kind of against the new age stuff. But the analog stuff was breaking down, the new digital stuff was exciting, so owners of theaters, studios, whatever, would buy this stuff, and I could get in there and work it. I wasn't great at mixing at the time, you know, but I could get through a show. I could get through a session and be totally fine. Like, I could use a computer, you know, very, very well compared to these engineers that have been doing it for a long time. So early on, I actually started teaching, like a year out of college. I started teaching older engineers how to mix in-ears. In-ears was a brand new thing. And for some reason, I kind of just understood in-ears because it was so similar to the studio, making that mix sound awesome in, like, headphones or something, you know? And so I really had an advantage there where I was just teaching people, like, how to work with artists, how to make an artist comfortable on stage, how to make an artist comfortable in the studio, and obviously using this stuff every day. And so I went a number of years where I was just working way too much. I mean, it was awesome because I was doing what I was doing it, you know? I was in the music industry. I was recording artists, usually at night, so I was doing tons of vocal sessions. That was primarily what I did for years, just recording vocal demos and vocals over tracks and editing and tuning, and that was primarily what I did studio-wise. I just didn't have the equipment and gear to do other stuff, and there was tons of singers where I was at, in the area that I was at. And working in the live environment was really awesome too, because I got to meet bands, meet artists, click with them in a live environment, and they loved the way I worked, and I could, you know, transfer them into the studio world and be like, hey, I also mix, I also do studio stuff. And it was just such an easy way to get people in this world with me, you know, this sound world with me, where they would trust me in a live scenario, and then they would also trust me in the studio. And it was just such a cool, like, little marriage for a long time. And then an opportunity came up where I was dating a girl, and I met this dance choreographer, and he wanted us to go out on cruise ships. And he asked me, he's like, hey, what do you think about going out on cruise ships? I was like, oh, I don't know, man. And my girlfriend at the time was super into it. And so within a month, we were flying to Australia and getting on a cruise ship, which is just wild. And that was really just like stopping our whole lives. Like, to me, cruise ships in a lot of ways are like you pause your life. I paused my kind of business development, and I just went overseas into this whole new world for a while. So I shared a little bit of the story in the last video about something I learned on those cruise ships. You should watch that if you haven't seen it. But I was on there as an employee. I did about 1.5 years of cruise ships. So it was 3 cruise ships, about 5 or 6 months at a time, and then you have a month off. So it was a little over 1.5 years. And I was done with it. I just could not stand. I mean, I don't know. I was just bored, and I wanted to go back to doing studio stuff because I had to put all that on pause, to travel the world. So I came back and ended up making really good friends with the head of audio for this company. And he didn't want me to leave. I quit, and he was like, dude, like, can you just come work with me? And I was like, oh, work with you? Like, go on all these ships and just travel around everywhere and like put up shows? And he was like, yeah. I was like, yep, I'll do that. So I kind of went under his wing and became an assistant sound designer for musicals and worked with just some amazing people, like some of the highest people in that musical world I got to work with, like, directly. And it was just such a good experience to learn how to work with these singers, these super pro singers, and how to work with these orchestra players, and how to work with producers and other designers. And we did a lot of recording too, because we had to build all our own sound effects for these shows. We were mixing in surround. All these shows were in surround in the theaters. It was just such a fun experience. And I learned so much from this guy. And I did that for another few years, just traveling all over the world. I added up the countries that I went to on doing that gig, and it was the ones I actually went into. So there's even more countries that I was docked at, but I didn't get to go out because we were working, of course. But the last time I counted them, it was 174 countries. And this is like so funny because this is such a funny video for me because I don't know. Sometimes I feel like when I'm talking about this stuff, I feel like I'm like bragging kind of, but really all this is I just want to show you my history and how I got here. Anyway, a lot of countries. I saw a lot of amazing things. I saw a lot of sad things. Had a lot of scary things happen. That's a whole bunch of other stories. Really changed my outlook on life. And I remember I was dating a different girl at the end of that period. And what I was doing basically was I was going out for a month or two and coming back for like a month, and then going out for a month or two, coming back for a month. And I just did that all the time. Month or two, month. And sometimes I'd have to go out for like 4 or 5 months. And I was flying like every 2 weeks sometimes, every week sometimes. It was a lot. It was taxing. And I was trying to build my audio business on the side so that whenever I came back, I could have some recordings and some gigs. And it was kind of successful, sort of. Like I was getting a little bit of stuff, but nothing major. I was kind of stuck in this cruise ship world. And I remember this girl told me once, because I was always talking about having my own business. I really wanted to have my own business and do my own thing, And she told me, she was like, like, you're never gonna make this happen unless you like make it happen, unless you do it. Like, you have to actually do it. Like, you can't be flying around the world and trying to build this. It just doesn't work. Like, you don't have time for it. And then when you're out and have no internet and no service, it like goes on pause again. And she told me that, and it kind of blew my mind. I was just, Margo, be very careful. Don't go that way. Margo's on the edge of this cliff right now. She's getting really brave. Margo, come here. Stay over here. That really resonated with me, like crazy, because it just hit me so hard that I was like, where is my focus? What am I doing? So I really quit. I was done. It took, I'll maybe explain this story later, but it took a pivotal moment. Basically, I fell asleep with a 15-foot ladder walking down a hallway in the middle of the night. I was just putting this back, and I was so exhausted, so tired from just, I can't even describe to you how insane the work that we were doing was. It was just insane. And I blacked out. I was completely sober, blacked out, and woke up over this ladder, hugging it, like on my knees, just bent over it. No recollection of kneeling down and like falling over the ladder to go to sleep. It was insane. And I decided, I was like, okay, I'm done. I got to do something else. I got to do something else. So then I moved kind of back home and I started my business, and I was just so adamant about it. And it was hard. It was so hard in the beginning. I basically got my first like rental, like it was a little duplex in forever because I'd just been traveling so much for years. And I could only afford that first little bit of rent. And I just I don't even know how they gave it to me, but the first while was so difficult because I was just trying to figure out what to do. I was like, yes, okay, you want to start an audio business, but like, what do you do? And it took a long time. There was these little wins and little gains and these sessions and whatever, but ultimately what it came down to was, for a while, I was in a like desperate state in that beginning time. I was so desperate to get a client, and I would try and find a client for the least amount of dollars I possibly can and talk them into it, and I'd get it, and it'd be an okay experience, but then I'd get done with that project and barely made any money and didn't have enough money for food and rent, and it was kind of gnarly. It was serious there for a little while. But somehow, once I realized that I needed a mindset shift of abundance. Like abundance was the thing that I just needed to focus on instead of coming from this desperate state. Because everybody that I was talking to, I had this desperate energy to what I was trying to talk them into, right? I knew I could give them a good product, but I was coming from a place of desperation. And once I switched that to an abundant mindset, that changed everything, because all of a sudden, like, talking to people was so much easier. Convincing people that I am the right person to make you sound awesome was so much easier because I was just coming from a different place. And so once I did that, I really started to gain this collection of clients and started doing really cool studio stuff, really awesome musical stuff, big live shows. I mixed a show with huge orchestras, and there was over 100,000 people there. Talk about pressure. That was one of the most insane pressure moments in my entire life. I don't know if I can find a video of it, but I'll put it up here. I was just in the middle of, you can't even see all the people that are there in the video. And then I started doing different musicals. I started traveling and teaching people, and I started to get stuff that was actually going places, like started to win awards. I wrote a song in a little like shack at this workplace for this dance group and mixed it, wrote it, recorded it, mixed it, edited it, did everything, mastered it, and it was on Oprah. That was really, really awesome. There's so many like little tiny things throughout this period that I look back on all the time, and I'm just so grateful for it. Hey, there's the bee. I don't know if you can see it. Hey, buddy. We're matching. I'm like all the same color today, basically. I hate when I do that. But anyway, traveling and doing all these projects and having my own business I just loved it so much, and I loved working with people, and I loved making projects happen. One of the things I was not good at was my quality of life. So I went kind of deep down the rabbit hole and was just doing insane hours, making all this stuff happen, making the money happen, making the business work. Just sometimes you just gotta dig deep and push super hard to make it happen. And then honestly, after a long time, I kind of started to notice that I loved talking with new engineers and like younger people coming up and just sharing my experience and sharing all the stuff that I've done wrong, because I promise you I've done just a billion things wrong. I still do things wrong to this day. Like, I kind of like to do things wrong because I feel like if you do as many things as wrong as you can, you're about to get to that right thing, you know? So like in terms of business, like sometimes you just need to just try a bunch of stuff and see, oh, that's all wrong. That's all wrong. Oh, that's right. Let's do that, you know? And I noticed when I started to go to gigs, I would be asked by producers or owners of the company or whatever to come back and do trainings with their engineers. Because a lot of times I would go out, do something, I'd be the lead engineer, and I'd, you know, do whatever it was, mix the song, record the song, do the live show, whatever. And there was always a staff there. There was always a staff there where I would have to leave the show with them, teach them how to run it, make it simple so that they can actually do it, you know, moving forward. And then I was starting to be asked to come back to teach people. And I started to realize that I loved it. Like, I love sitting down with somebody for hours and just talking about audio and talking about theory and technique and working with people and how to get the best out of an artist, how to get the best out of a singer, how to make someone feel so comfortable with you immediately that the session, the project just goes smooth, and you build that trust really quick. Because if somebody is super comfortable, they're going to give you their best performance. And that was one of the things that I realized really fast. I was like, oh my gosh, audio is just psychology, basically. Like really any business, but audio, especially when you're recording, like these people are giving a part of them to you when they're singing right there with you and you're recording them. They're playing guitar. They're like, it's like an exchange, you know? And so I just started to realize that I loved teaching it so much. And kind of fast forward to today, that's pretty much where I'm at today. I mean, I've done, obviously, if you've seen the channel, we've done that big studio with the 96 channel console. That was a huge multi-year project. Me and Danny Stone designed that whole space. I did all the digital side and picked out some of the gear and wiring and all that stuff. And Danny was kind of the main mastermind behind the acoustics and all that stuff. And that was a huge project. And one of the things that I really wanted to see come out of that project, like I love doing sessions and mixing and recording, but one of the things I was trying to make happen there was to do sessions where we invite a bunch of engineers in to sit in and just experience it and learn it and use a giant console. You know, that was a huge goal of the YouTube channel in the very beginning, was to find people who would be really interested in coming and checking that out and actually learning from it. Because one of the things that I've learned through teaching people and talking with other engineers and artists and stuff is you cannot teach passion. And passion is kind of the key. Like, you have to have passion in order to truly make it work. I mean, in music, that's what I think. Especially as an audio engineer. Definitely as an audio engineer. Because you don't get any of the credit, really. You know, the artist gets all the credit stuff. You're kind of like background. So you have to love it. You have to be passionate about it. And I love finding passionate people that truly want to do this. And I have a handful throughout the years that I have trained and worked with and taught and done shows with and done recordings with and done studio stuff with. And I've watched them grow and blossom into this like very, very capable person in terms of audio. And there's just nothing like that, man. Like mixing a song, this is just my personal opinion, but mixing a song and mixing a record and being a part of an artist's journey is amazing. I feel insanely lucky to be a part of that all the time. It's really awesome. On the other side of it, helping an engineer get to a place where they're doing that in a very, very good way, both for them and for artists, and tons of artists, like, that is more fulfilling to me than anything. Like, it's amazing to see somebody work with an artist that you helped get there, and just to see them, just kill it. It's awesome. And honestly, I'm really not a religious person. I would say I'm like a spiritual person. I believe in higher power. I'm not getting into that really, but there's one of these, I think I might be wrong here. I'm at very high altitude and kind of tired, but I think there's this thing in the Bible where it says, like catch a fish for a man, you feed him for a day. Teach that man to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. And that, for some reason, that is what I have thought of this entire hike. I can see my van miles away down there in that valley. And as soon as I started the hike this morning, we left at 7 a.m., I think, or 6 a.m. That has just been continuously in my ear, in my head. And that's why I'm doing this. That's it. So, August 15th is the deadline. We are doing a group mastermind that meets 3 times a week. It's going to be a little bit of mixing, What I really want to do is I want to give everybody new files and have them mix it, and then compare sessions, compare mixes. But the primary focus of it is business and working with clients and getting clients and building your portfolio and how you can improve those things to get on a path to where you're honestly helping more people, helping more artists achieve their dream, fulfill their dream. That's the goal. And so it's a 4-week mastermind, meeting 3 times a week. It'll probably be kind of in the evenings because I know people have to work, but there's a limited amount of space for that available. Click the link in the description if you want to check it out. You have to apply. You got to book a call with me. We'll talk. I'd love to talk with you. Just see if you're the right fit. Otherwise, thank you for listening to me this whole time. I know this is a little bit different of a video, but I kind of got inspired, obviously, being up here and being up on this mountain. It is really special up here. Now it is time to hike down this thing. And what's funny is when I get all the way down to the bottom, I actually have a mixing deadline. And this took way longer than I thought it was going to. So it's going to be a sprint once I get down there to get this song out to the artist. But that's life, That's life. And I'm going to be very excited whenever I get down there. So it's going to be great. All right, friend, wherever you are, I love you so much. Thank you for watching this. And yeah, I'll see you on the next one. Peace. Whew. Pretty gnarly going down.